Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more.
The Man That Can Project podcast, a podcast empowering career-driven men to live more fulfilling lives. We are here to challenge your beliefs, redefine success, and talk about the important stuff in a relatable way. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. My name's Lachlan Stuart. Let's get into it. Gents, it is Friday morning, so I'm a day late on the podcast. Very sorry. Middle of the road, and just my main priority is doing whatever I can to manage the mental and physical challenges that are coming as a result of that. But today I wanted to really dive into being accountable for your relationships, and more so the intimate ones, the one with your partners, spouses, or if you're single, these will be definitely a great podcast to start thinking about some of these things, and even going down the rabbit hole of working, flexing this muscle for yourself so that you can have a thriving relationship. We spoke about it on the call this morning. I asked the gentlemen when we put them into our breakout rooms, what are 1 to 2 traits, skills, or characteristics that they thought were important to having a successful relationship? Because what many of us have experienced is when we get into a relationship, there's that honeymoon phase that people talk about where it's so passionate and so exciting, and your partner could not do a single thing wrong. And then over time, we start noticing the flaws, and generally then start to lean on those and focus on them and look for them almost as a way to find something to talk about or disagree about or get that passion back. And I think that's complete bullshit. I'm doing an episode on this today, but also next week, the Thursday episode will be about long distance relationships. My wife and I, she's overseas for 5 weeks before I get over there. So sort of going back to that long distance, it's 5 weeks is not the end of the world, but going back into that, when we first started dating, that first 3 years was a lot of time apart while traveling. So I'm going to do an episode on that next week as well. But for today, it's accountable for a relationship, and just discussing a few of those traits, skills, and characteristics that we, the men spoke about this morning in the Strong Men of Value Academy. So the first one being communication. The second one being present and intentional. The third one, which is definitely often overlooked within relationships, conflict resolution. So let's go back to number 1, communication. Think about this. How often do you feel valued and do you feel heard within relationships? There's a good quote that assumption and lack of communication are the number 1 relationship killers. So, assumption. Many of us, whether it's yourself or your partner, don't feel valued or heard purely based off the assumptions of the other member in the relationship. We assume that they understand what we mean. We assume they understand how we feel. We assume that they understand what's going on in our life. And when you take a moment to think about it, that's absurd if you don't communicate it. I think about this quite often because, I document my life, I do the podcast, and I'm like, surely everyone can keep up and know how I'm feeling. But I'm like, not really, because unless I'm having the honest conversations with people, how do they really know what's going on in my mind? I'm choosing to document specific things. I'm leaving out moments. And the same goes with your partner. The same even goes for you. Do you really feel valued? And does your partner feel valued? Does your partner feel heard? That's something that we can work on, and it comes through, 1, self-awareness, Two, spatial awareness, or I guess relationship awareness is wicked key. It is having those conversations. And one of the books that I recommend to the men, and we speak about quite often around relationships, is the 5 love languages, and understanding what your love language of your partner is, so that they do feel valued, they do feel heard. And if you haven't read that book, I'd highly recommend reading it. It's game changer, very much a game changer. One of the blokes has only just started reading it the last week, and he's like, I know you've recommended it a few times, Lockie, but Jesse recommended it. Now I'm reading it, and it is gold. So if you don't believe me, just take Jesse's word from it, or any of the other blokes' words for it, with those love languages there. But think about ways that you can feel valued and you can feel heard. And one thing that unintentionally I did, but upon reflection has worked really well for me, is, and choose any moment in time. You don't necessarily need to use the time that I used. But when you get into bed, phones down, face each other, and just have a conversation. Now, you may have that craving for deep connection and have a lot of deep questions that you want to ask, but you have to do the groundwork to earn the right to be able to have those conversations. And I feel when change comes through unfulfillment, unhappiness, or being uncomfortable, right? It really, aka the rock bottom zone, forces our hand and makes us want to change, because it's not a fun place to be. So when that happens, when we make the decision as men that we want to be a better partner, we want to love more, we want to make our partner feel valued, you can't just flick the switch. While you think you can, you got to work through the emotional baggage that, 1, you potentially have, 2, your partner potentially has. And you got to go back to the root, not even the root, but go back to phase 1, which is communication. What was it like when you guys first started dating? You didn't go to, in all this, I love you on your first date. You would have been just checking in, how was the day? When are we catching up next? What's going on in your life? All of that sort of stuff. And then the more you spoke, the deeper the conversation and the connection got. So we need to go back to that. So I think we've also done a podcast. If you search it, the Man That Can Project, or if you're in the academy, there's a video and worksheet on it, the 5 levels of communication. And, just quickly, there's auditory, obviously how you articulate yourself, move your body, tonality, and the word choices. And it's very, very important to work on that as a skill. If you struggle with that, you can improve that. I'm always working on it. It's one of the reasons why the podcast started, so I could listen back to myself and improve how I spoke about things, change my vocal tone, which I don't do too often, but all of those sorts of things to practice, to flex that muscle, because I know that it's going to help in my relationship. The better I can explain myself, the better I can listen, is only going to add value to my relationship. So I guess a tool there, something to leave you guys with on point 1, communication, before we go into be present and intentional, would be that 5 love languages, definitely. And a second thing you could do is video yourself or voice record yourself just talking about things that are important, what's going on in your life, and watch it back. Take note. Now, it may be hard for you to do, but do it from a place of, I want feedback. What can I improve upon? Or, take some speaking classes. Toastmasters is a great one that I did. There's so many other things. Otherwise, dive into the Man That Can Project Academy, and we'll more than help you with that. Getting that communication dialed down, because, as I said, it's one of the lack of communication is one of the number 1 reasons why relationships die. Let's move on to point 2. Be present and intentional. Now, it's very easy to be at dinner. It's very easy to be at any moment in your relationship and not actually be there. You may be thinking about work. You may be doing emails. You may be watching TV, reading books, whatever it may be. But you're there. Your time is together, but you're not there. And think about this. If you and I were to be having a conversation now, or if you're even listening to this now, pretend I'm right there talking to you about this, and you're on your phone, do you think I feel like you're present? Do you think I feel valued? Probably not. And it's easy to say you're not because you're on the podcast, but I guarantee if you're not valuing this, you're distracted. Read Stolen Focus, which is a book that I'm reading at the moment, and it will blow your mind. So the important thing, is to go back to that time. If you're going to be spending time with a loved one, with your partner, are you really making it count? Do you have boundaries and do you have expectations around how that time is being spent? Like no phone time, like give me your full presence. I want to feel like you're really here with me, because so many relationships don't feel that, and that's why they grow apart. Right? There are no boundaries. There are no expectations towards the time that you have together, because as I speak about quite often, when you spend enough time doing anything, it becomes a habit. It becomes a routine. And the purpose of having habits and routines means that you don't necessarily need to think about it too much. You don't need to be as intentional. And if you stop being intentional with your relationship, what do you think is going to happen? It's not going to get better. No fucking way. You need to continue to show up. You need to have those boundaries and enforce them so that you get the love, connection, value, and understanding that you crave and also your partner craves. And once again, I'm not perfect with this. I really struggle with this, and it's something that I think it's such an important conversation to continue to keep having, because for many of you who are in relationships, or many of you who will eventually be in relationships, love and connection is at the root core of many of our decisions in life. So if we can better understand how we can be present and work on that now, and be mindful of the time that you spend on your phone, be mindful of whether you're really giving people your attention or not when you're with them, you'll be able to flex that muscle and improve that skill. It's not about being perfect. It's just about being that little bit better every single day. Cool. I'm just trying to think. We've got some good tools and worksheets in the academy for that sort of stuff as well, around boundaries and expectations. But let's move on to number 3, conflict resolution. Boom. This is awesome for business, but I think, at the end of the day, a relationship should be implementing many things that you put into business, right? Conflict resolution. When our emotions go higher, we feel like we can't articulate ourselves, we're jealous, we're insecure, whatever it is. Many people fly off the fucking rail. They say things that they regret, they storm off, and none of that helps your relationship at all. Sit there for a moment and go, when was the last time storming off helped my fucking relationship? I'm guaranteeing you there isn't a moment. So conflict resolution is a great skill set that you can develop that will help you in your relationship, because there will be conflicts, there will be disagreements, there will be arguments, there will be moments when your partner or even yourself emotionally will fly off the rail. And so understanding how you can resolve this is so important, because many people go to bed angry. You don't want to go to bed angry, not at your partner, not at someone that you love and you're spending your life with. No chance you want that. So what you can do to start thinking about that, and once again, read books on it, listen to podcasts more in depth on it, or join the academy, because we can go through that in depth in there. But a couple of things. One, you need to really clarify what the fucking issue is. What happens when you go or get emotionally triggered and you're trying to solve one problem is you grab every other problem that you've got as well and bring them into the basket. It may be, you may be frustrated that a common one is for us blokes, if you go out on the booze and you don't come home on time for dinner, your missus may be upset or your partner may be upset, right? Common one that I hear about. Not that I do, because I don't actually go out on the booze anymore. Not saying I'm a saint, but fucking hell. So from that moment, what then happens is you might blow up and go, yeah, but you do this and you do that, and I'm always at work and always doing this. And we try to justify our position by making the other one feel bad and bringing up their stuff. That is not going to solve the current problem. That's going to make it fucking worse. So what you need to work on is emotional intelligence, self-awareness. They're two key things that you can always work on, and it's something that we do every single week by checking in, reviewing our week, what's gone well, what have you done well today, various things like that help you get clear on this. But it's clarify the issue. When that comes through the door, you need to be able to logically and rationally go, okay, the issue here is that I didn't come home for dinner on time. That's your responsibility. You weren't home for dinner on time. So what is the solution that you can identify? Yes, you can be sorry, but if it becomes a continued repeat offense, maybe sorry isn't enough. So you need to work out what that solution is. And that comes through being able to manage the emotions and expectations of your partner through that, because obviously an emotional heightened person, logic doesn't make any sense. You may just need to sit there and cop it sometimes. But it's then when the moments pass, and when I say the moments pass, the emotions balanced out, it's then about having a conversation and identifying a solution that you can both agree upon, where you may have to put your hand up and say, look, I'm sorry, and that is unacceptable behavior. I don't understand how it's made you feel, but I can't imagine it would make you feel very respected or valued. I made a poor judgment call, but I want to do better. I would love some support and some feedback on how you feel I can be better in this position. I think that's a great way to start working at it. But like I said, these 3 points that I mentioned were just quick characteristics, traits, and skills that anyone can work on that will benefit your relationships long term. And that's communication, learning to be present and being intentional by boundaries and expectations. And the final one, conflict resolutions. Okay, so if you found value from that, gents, or if you feel like one of those hit the nail on the head for you, start Googling how you can improve that and put it into play. That's what our whole academy is about, is literally having conversations for real life things that are going on for blokes so we can help you be the better version of yourself and excel in all these areas of your life. I want you to reach your potential. I want you to continue being that 1% better. If you got value, share this with someone that you know will get value, and do something today that will make you better for tomorrow. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachlan Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.